Matching values, rural loyalty confronts Hollywood glamour and charity. I have always believed that the deepest currents in the Beverly Hillbillies run beneath the surface of its most apparent misunderstandings. The Gloria Swanson sequence reaches its emotional and thematic peak not in the physical comedy of the emptied rooms or the comic misreading of the catskin coat, but in the quiet collision of two complete value systems. On one side stands the Clampett family's rural loyalty, absolute and uncalculating. On the other stands the complicated machinery of Hollywood glamour, charitable calculation, and the deliberate letting go of a famous past. Every time I watch these two systems meet, I feel a fresh recognition of why the series continues to matter. The Clampetts arrive at the mansion convinced they are witnessing a catastrophe. A woman is being stripped of her belongings. Her home is about to be demolished for a golf course. In their experience, such events happen only when the sheriff arrives and the last defenses have failed. Their response is immediate and total. They dress in their Sunday best. They present themselves as neighbors. They place their bodies between the movers and the furniture. The impulse is pure. It asks for nothing in return. It does not pause to investigate the fine print of the situation. It simply acts. Gloria Swanson's reality is almost the precise opposite of what they imagine. The auction is her choice. The money will go to the Actors Relief Fund. She is not being forced out by creditors or by a hostile industry. She is making a deliberate decision to convert the objects of her past into support for others who need it and then to move east. The glamour of her history is not being stripped away against her will. She is choosing to release it. That choice belongs to a world. The Clampetts have never inhabited a world in which possessions can be liquidated for abstract good causes and in which a famous name can still command attention even while surrendering its material symbols. The beauty of the sequence lies in the show's refusal to declare either side foolish. The Clampetts are wrong about the facts. Their loyalty, however, is not diminished by the error. Swanson is not in the desperate condition they imagine, yet their determination to stand with her still registers as a genuine gift. The show allows both truths to exist at once. In doing so, it creates a rare kind of moral complexity for a mainstream sitcom of its era. We are invited to laugh at the mismatch. And at the same time we are invited to feel the dignity of the loyalty that produced it. I find myself returning often to the particular quality of Clampett loyalty. It is not strategic. It does not measure the social value of the person being defended. It does not ask whether the defense will be effective or even welcomed. When Granny declares that no one is going to push around her lookalike, the claim is absolute. When Jed insists that the lady should keep her bathtub, the insistence carries the full weight of his character. These are not gestures designed to impress. They are the only possible responses available to people who have never learned to look away from what they believe is trouble. Hollywood's version of care operates according to different rules. The Actors Relief Fund is a real and worthy institution. Turning the objects of a famous life into support for other performers is a rational and even generous act. Yet it is also an act that requires a certain distance from the objects themselves. Swanson can release the gold bathtub because she has already extracted the meaning she needs from it. She can allow the furniture to be sold because the furniture is no longer essential to her sense of who she is. That ability to separate meaning from material is foreign to the Clampett worldview. In their lives, objects and the people who use them remain tightly bound. To surrender the object is to risk surrendering something of the self. The proposed solution of a new silent film crystallizes the entire collision. In the Clampett mind, the problem is simple. Swanson is a great star who is no longer making pictures. The obvious correction is to make a picture. They have the money. They have access to a studio. They even have a ready-made audience at the Bijou Theatre in Bugtisel, where her old films are still watched with unbroken attention. The plan is both absurd and strangely perfect. It takes the family's loyalty and translates it into the only form of help they can imagine: the restoration of useful work. In their world, a person who can still do a job should be allowed to do it. The fact that the job in question belongs to a vanished era of filmmaking does not register as an obstacle. I have always loved the way the show handles the emotional temperature of these scenes. There is no heavy speech about the dignity of labor or the importance of remembering the past. The values simply express themselves through action and through the particular quality of the family's attention. When they list the old films they love, they are not performing nostalgia, they are reporting lived experience. When they refuse to accept that the golden era is over, they are not being naive. They are being consistent. In their lives, the things that matter do not expire simply because the calendar has moved on. The larger cultural conversation the sequence joins is worth lingering over. The middle 1960s were a time when American culture was rapidly sorting its past into categories of what could be kept and what could be discarded. Old Hollywood was already becoming a subject for museum retrospectives and charity auctions. The Clamperts resist that sorting. They treat the past as still present, still capable of generating new work and new meaning. Their resistance is comic, but it is also a form of cultural criticism. The show never underlines the point. It simply lets the family's stubborn loyalty stand as evidence that another way of valuing things remains possible. There is also a quiet commentary here on the nature of charity itself. Swanson's auction is charity in its most organized and impersonal form. Money will be raised, people will be helped, the transaction will be clean. The Clamperts offer a different kind of help, the help that arrives in person, that places the body between the threat and the threatened, that refuses to accept the situation as given. One form of charity is efficient, the other is intimate. The show does not declare a winner. It simply places them side by side and allows the audience to feel the difference. As the sequence moves toward its conclusion, I always feel a small surge of gratitude for the way the writers preserved the integrity of both sides. Swanson is never made to look cold or calculating. Her graciousness toward the family feels genuine. The Clamperts are never made to look merely foolish. Their error is real, but the loyalty that produced it remains beautiful. In the space between those two truths, the show finds a rare kind of emotional balance. I never grow tired of this collision of values. It reminds me that the series' greatest strength has always been its willingness to let the Clamperts remain unchanged by the sophisticated world they move through. Hollywood can have its auctions and its relief funds, and its carefully managed farewells to the past. The Clamperts will continue to respond to what they see with the only tools they have ever needed: loyalty, presence, and the absolute refusal to look away. That refusal is what I love most about them, and it reaches one of its purest expressions in the emptying rooms of Gloria Swanson's house.